Hi, I'm Reed Abbott, the Southeast Regional Agronomist for Agro-Culture Liquid Fertilizers. Today I've prepared for you a slideshow that discusses often misdiagnosed nutrient deficiencies and injury symptoms that we see in the field. As you can see, the title of my presentation today is What's Really the Problem Here? And I'll go through several examples of commonly misdiagnosed injury symptoms and how they can be mistaken for those nutrient deficiencies. Here's a list of common errors people make when diagnosing nutrient deficiencies in the field, and I will discuss all these further as we move along in the presentation. First, we have mistaking nutrient deficiencies, meaning one nutrient for the other. We also see people mistaking herbicide damage for nutrient deficiencies, diseases, insect damage, pest damage for fertilizer damage, and then the over-application of one nutrient that results in the tie-up of another. So here's the first mistake that we have people make a lot, and that's differentiating between one nutrient and another nutrient on their deficiency symptoms. Nutrient deficiency symptoms can be very similar many times, and the reason that is because nutrients share the same physiological processes, and therefore when there's a deficiency in one or both of those nutrients, you get kind of the same appearance or the same look to those plants. And it's very important that we make sure that we differentiate between what nutrient is actually deficient so that we can take corrective action and not waste money when we're applying those nutrients through a foliar application or a side dress application mid-season. So here's our next mistake that I see quite frequently out in the field. Many herbicides can be mistaken for nutrient deficiency symptoms. The reason that is because a lot of herbicides are designed to inhibit a certain physiological pathway, and that therefore kills the plant. And the same thing would happen if we had a nutrient deficiency. It would slow down that chemical path or that physiological pathway and inhibit that plant from growing. And so many times, again, that herbicide injury and that nutrient deficiency symptom look very similar. With the naked eye as we're walking through those fields, but we want to make sure that we are looking at the correct nutrient deficiency or herbicide injury there, and don't jump to conclusions and add something additionally that's going to cost us money. Also, diseases can be mistaken for nutrient deficiencies many times. Diseases attack their host plants in many different ways and can display a whole spectrum of injury symptoms. And a lot of times those injury symptoms can mirror a nutrient deficiency symptom. As you can see here in the citrus leaves, iron chlorosis and citrus greening disease look very similar due to that intraveinal chlorosis look. And a lot of times, if you're not 100% sure at what you're looking at, you might treat this orchard for something that isn't going to cure the bedrock of the problem. So again, doing a little research, making sure that what we're seeing out in the field is indeed what we're experiencing in the plants is very important, making sure that we make that correct diagnosis. So another mistake that we commonly see is misdiagnosing insect damage for nutrient deficiency. And the reason that is because insect damage many times looks like a nutrient deficiency due to the fact that those insects are robbing the plant of its energy and nutrition. Because of that, it makes the plant look as if it has a nutrient deficiency because it really is, but it's not because the nutrients aren't in the soil or aren't present. It's because the insects are robbing them of that. So we just need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and scouting those fields and really looking at everything that's taking place in that field so that we make the correct diagnosis and get rid of the insects rather than adding additional fertility when it's not needed. Another common mistake I see when scouting fields with folks is the mistake pest damage for fertilizer and herbicide burn. I know it's real frustrating to see leaf damage or necrotic lesions on the leaves as you're walking through your field, and a lot of times it's easiest to point to maybe an application of a herbicide or an insecticide that you put out previously. But many times those lesions can be caused by other things like insect damage and disease damage. As you can see in this picture here, Asian soybean rust causes those necrotic lesions on the leaves, and it looks very similar to herbicide drift damage in soybeans there. So again, be sure to look at that damage, understand what's been done to that field previously, and how long it has been since that application's been made, and really do your homework in trying to get those diagnoses correct so that we can apply a product that might help with those lesions and keep that plant alive a little bit longer into the season. Also, we see a lot of over application of nutrients that can cause deficiency for another nutrient. As you can see here on the right, zinc deficiency can be induced due to high levels of phosphate levels in the soil. Also, iron deficiency in peanuts can be due to excessive phosphate. So, again, a lot of times we think that we're doing the field justice by putting out a whole lot of one or two different types of nutrients, but in the end, really balance is the key, and ensuring that we have everything out there that we need is going to be very important, and try to minimize those antagonistic interactions with other nutrients. So be mindful of what nutrients affect other nutrients so that we're not tying up any of those. So now that we've gone over the common mistakes that I see people make out in the field in diagnosing different injury issues or fertilizer deficiency issues, I want to go over the importance of making a correct diagnosis. The first thing I would say is by making a correct diagnosis, we can make a quick adjustment through foliar fertilizers or pesticide applications. Also, we can save money that we would otherwise spend on invalid solutions trying to fix the problem. You know, if we misdiagnose something, a foliar fertilizer isn't going to cure a disease issue, and it might make it worse. So we want to make sure that what we're seeing out in the field is indeed what's wrong, and make the correct adjustment there to get that field back in shape. And then finally, it's to learn from our mistakes. We can apply what we are learning this year through our scouting, and then take that on to next year and change our management practices to hopefully avoid some of the issues that we've seen this year. So in conclusion, remember that injury and deficiency symptoms many times mimic each other, and we want to make sure that we get that diagnosis right so that we can take the corrective action. We need to take the time to dig a little deeper and make sure that we're investigating to the fullest extent those crop injury or deficiency symptoms. And remember that the response efficacy is only as good as the diagnosis. So if we don't diagnose these issues correctly, there's no way that we can treat them in the best manner possible. Thank you very much.